What are 5 books that shaped you or your style?
The House on Mango Street by Sandra Cisneros. Aristotle and Dante Discover the Secrets of the Universe by Benjamin Hilary Sáenz. We Are Okay by Nina LaCour. Parable of the Sower by Octavia Butler. And Perdido Street Station by China Mieville. Easily top 5. Each of those things within the next few years, you will find how each of those, you'll see all of those. You can see House of Mango Street. I feel like it's very obvious in Anger is a Gift. There's bits of Aristotle and Dante in that as well. I'm working on my third young adult book now, and it has a huge influence from Aristotle and Dante, and We Are Okay. Each of Us, the Desert doesn't exist without Parallel Sower, just period. Period. It doesn't. And I can't tell you why because it's spoilers. Perdido Street Station is one of the wildest rides I've ever taken in a fantasy book. And I think about it. I thought about it a lot when I was writing Each of Us a Desert. I don't know that it necessarily affected it in a direct way, but that I had knew nothing about China Mieville at all. Had never read a single one of his books. And one of my friends was like, "You need to read this book." And it was. I like to describe it as 200 pages of setup and then 400 pages of the scariest thing I've ever read in my entire life, which also includes a spider who speaks in all caps. It is a lot. It is a lot, and it does a lot, and I really, really enjoyed it.
Only 5. All right. The Hero in the Crown by Robin McKinley. Loved that book. Checked it out 11 million times from the library. Oh crap, I just thought of another one. A Hers Song by Janet Kagan. Checked it out 1,000,001 times from the library. Wonderfully written aliens, just fabulous. Apparently 2 Star Trek novels are going to be on the list because my third one is The Wounded Sky by Diane Duane, perhaps appropriately given this is CrossingsCon, which is just wonderful for all kinds of reasons, as I'm sure you know. Tail Chaser's Song by Tad Williams. Loved it, loved the fantasy, and I mean, Watership Down gets kind of an honorary mention in there because without it we wouldn't have Tail Chaser's Song. I loved them both. The last one, oh Lord, that's tough. I would say PC Hodgel's Godstock. I loved the city and the sort of weirdly irreverent tone and the just bizarre fantasy things going on that was not a big epic quest. It was just someone trying to survive in this very strange city. If I had to do an honorable mention, I would also go Perdido Street Station by China Mieville, who really showed the monsters. And one of the few books that I read and about every other page or so was like, damn, I wish I'd thought of that. Damn, I wish I'd thought of that. If I can do that to a book, that is the highest praise I have. You also asked what books that shaped me, so I also have to say nonfiction Noah's Garden by, I think, Sarah Stein, which is a magnificent book about gardening and native plants.
Style is such a difficult thing to pin down. I would have to cite Edison's The Worm Ouroboros, not specifically because of the language in the books, which is unique to Edison. No one has written prose like that before or since. But speaking more to the way he is unafraid of living wholeheartedly, whole-bodiedly in the worldviews of his characters. His bad guys are inimitable. And he loves them being bad. There is no sense of him attempting to redeem them in any way whatsoever. He says, here's a bad guy. He is bad. He likes being bad. Let's sit in his head for a while and see how that is. It's dangerous. It's really kind of refreshing, actually. Finding another writer who could pull that off, I don't know where you'd go these days. Okay, that's one. It wouldn't even be 5 books for me. It would be 5 authors, really, because I look to them for specific areas of expertise. I would look at a great deal of Robert Heinlein's work, not necessarily the later books. I knew him and liked him a lot, and with the best will in the world, I cannot say that his latest books were anything like his best. The Heinlein Juveniles are another story. I dote on those things, even when they are in detail hugely wrong-headed and told in voices and tones of voice that don't work anymore. Even so, there's still something genuine about them that really attracts me. Also, similarly, Andre Norton, whose work, again, has that genuine quality of someone often struggling her way through new territory, storytelling options and areas that just had not been explored by other writers to that point, and she just got in there and made it work. Edith Nesbit, again, that sense of working in storytelling styles in terms of talking to young readers as if they were smart enough to understand what was going on. She and Norton share that. And that sense of, yes, I know you can keep up with me. Let's get into this together. I don't have to dumb this down for you. The old-fashioned manner of her language can fool you sometimes into not seeing how revolutionary what she was doing was for that period of time. Okay, that's 1, 2, 3, 4. Was that 4? Who else? C.J. Cherryh, no question. She is one of the best of the science fiction writers of the last, easily, 30, 40 years. A lot of what I know about handling aliens, Carolyn pushed me in the right direction for that. A lot of how to make the work you do with alien characters look natural and easy for them, if not for the people around them. It should be some work getting to grips with an alien life form. It should not just be something that, you do like that. Universal translators or not.
How do you approach world building? Is there something you've always wanted to put in a world and not had a place for?
My books tend to be very character-driven, so I approach it, mostly I start with what does the character want and why is the character stuck in a terrible mess? And then the world building comes in that I have to figure out how the world is stopping them from having what they want, or how the world is holding the thing they want, dangling it somewhere, but they can't get to it. World building is the stuff I find along the way as the characters go, and some of it's really cool. But I usually start about 90% of the time. I start with the character. Is there always something you've always wanted to put in the world and not have a place for? Yes, I actually wrote an entire book that was nothing but that. It was called Summer in Orcus. It was all the tidbits that I thought were really cool that I had never been able to put anywhere. So I just made a whole book where the main character is going through this world called Orcus and finding all kinds of very strange things. I still have not been able to put a blood-drinking hummingbird into a book. One of these days. I keep trying to shove that thing into book after book after book, just does not appear. I'm telling you, vampire hummingbirds, I have been trying to find a spot for that for 20 years. It'll happen. I'll do it.
I wouldn't normally think of it in those terms. You don't know what the world needs until you started to conceive of it. And it's too easy to mess something up by just saying, well, I've had this thing that I wanted to shove into a world for a long time now. here, let me shove it in here and see if it works. Routinely, that will not benefit either you or the world you're working on. It can be dangerous. I'm looking at the questions here in case you're wondering. But as for the approach, it can be difficult. I mean, knowing where to start. If you start with the characters and you assemble the world around them from a sense of their problems and their attempts to solve them, I think that can be useful to you. But the concrete business of, is it a planet? Is it a plane? What's the weather like? Stuff like that. It should matter to you only insofar as it matters to your characters. And that can be a great deal or relatively little, depending on what their stories are. But once you've laid down a rule about, the gravity or the planet's orbit or how people deal with a particular problem in their culture, you need to stick by it. Gravity doesn't care about our personal feelings, and you as a world builder have a responsibility to make sure that your world deals equitably with all the people in it, both physically and emotionally. And that may sound dangerously airy-fairy. It would take me hours of getting down to the fine points of it to explain actually what I meant by that. So I hope you'll forgive me if it's really general. I'm building like 3 different worlds at the moment, and each of them has a completely different set of necessities and characteristics, none of which has anything to do with any of the others, and it's a bit challenging. It really is, and quite enjoyable. To the point where it's hard to talk about. It's hard to know how to discuss this, without either sounding overly precise or incredibly vague, kind of as I am at the moment. Please forgive me.
This is where I get to admit something real bad. I develop plot and characters before I do world building. And that is certainly how it happened with Each of Us at Desert. I make the world building fit the characters, not the other way around, which is not how most people do when they are writing secondary world fantasy, in particular, where you have to construct an entire world from scratch. They almost always construct the world first and then all of the other stuff. I don't do that. I actually have never done that. And that includes the original drafts of Anger is a Gift. I came up with the character arcs and what I thought would be the general beginning, middle, end of a character without any of the details. I come up with plot points and then figure out world building along the way. Each of Us at Desert is secondary world fantasy, so that is where I had to do the most intense world building I've ever done in my life. But even in the other stuff, I'm playing with contemporary fantasy, with a little bit of science fiction in some of them. I always do characters and story first. I feel like those things have to be strong before I do any world building. I also like fitting world building to characters, and so here's a great example. So in Each of Us at Desert, this is a world that has been destroyed by a god named Solis, and Solis's promise to their people was that they would never torch and destroy the world ever again as long as the people were honest. And the way that they had to stay honest is Solis gave these random people around the world the power of the Cuentista. And these people have the ability to pull the truth out of people's bodies and eat them and learn what they did wrong. And then there's a whole ritual to return. It's a very ritualistic process. I did not think of that first. It was one of almost the last things that I thought of. And I thought of it because I needed a reason to give my character to leave her home. And that whole mythology, a lot of the world building of the cities, of certain things, almost all of that came towards the end. I don't world build first. It's probably very strange, but that's just how I write.
What's your favorite thing to do at conventions?
Go to the bar. I'm sorry, all the best conversations happen in the bar. I don't know what it is about convention bars. They're a magical space. The truth comes out in strange ways in the middle of the night when you're sitting with friends, writers, everybody in the bar. Things occur. It's truly extraordinary.
It's so easy. I had no hesitation. I wrote down the answers just so I was prepared. I don't even need to look at it. I'm just going to look right at you reading Garfield fan fiction. Duh, of course.
Usually sleep, because conventions are exhausting. I love them. I love meeting people. I love being on panels. I love talking about things and other people's work. Talking about my own work is horribly embarrassing for me, of course, because I was raised Catholic. But I love talking about other people's stuff. I love looking at art. I love looking at other people's art. I love to, just all the cool stuff. Meet friends I haven't seen in ages. Go, oh my God, it's you. Hug. All right, we'll go back to having a lifelong friendship 5 minutes at a time every year. But when I'm actually at the convention, I very much enjoy sleeping and trying to recover from all of that I'm doing.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe to our channel for guest interviews and more. And while you're at it, check out this playlist of all our interviews with our guests for 2021.